Well, here we are, July 2nd. I'm going to be getting in hopefully 3. I don't think I'll get the third one planted, but for sure 2 brassica plots tonight, these little tiny kill plots. I sprayed all 3 of these spots off. They're all about, at the most, 1/8 of an acre, probably closer to like a 1/10 or, I mean, this is like 40 yards by 20 yards, not much. I sprayed off all 3 of these plots probably a month ago, and the one plot, nothing really came in. There wasn't many weeds that grew back. These were actually this plot and the next plot were existing clover plots that were getting taken over by grasses, and obviously mowing does not help kill the grass, so it was time to replant, basically restart these clover plots. This plot and the next plot were clover plots for probably the last, I'd say maybe 4 years now. And you can see some clover survived the first spraying, but I had to come in here and spray this a second time. That's what all this water hemp is. You can see it's starting to wilt. I maybe killed most of it, but I sprayed straight 2,4-D on this plot 2 days ago, and it's already did a pretty good job on the water hemp here. If I would have sprayed glyphosate on this, it wouldn't have done a dang thing, because this stuff is glyphosate resistant. But you can see there's still some clover here, even after the first spraying of 2,4-D and glyphosate to kill the grass, and 2,4-D to kill the clover. But the next plot is kind of a similar dark ground like this, and there's like no water hemp that grew in. I don't understand why this plot is just infested with it. And look how thick it came in. There was tons of deer browse on this water hemp, but I'm not really wanting the deer to eat here in the summer. I want to plant this into brassicas this year. All 3 of these plots in this video will be brassicas, and then I'll seed for sure this one, the next one, with winter rye around Labor Day, and then next spring I'll seed my clover right into the winter rye and crush it all down, and it should suppress some of these weeds, but probably not much. And just, you know, maybe continue to mow if the water hemp comes in next year, which it probably will in this plot. Anyways, I'm gonna get a quick little time lapse of ripping this up. Hopefully it works up pretty good. I don't know, there's a lot of, it hasn't been worked up for 4 years, so we'll see how good this works up. Well, it did a okay job. This stuff being sprayed 2 days ago probably was enough to kill it, and then just working up everything. I don't think there's going to be too much of this stuff that comes back to life, but there could be some. You can see some of these are still in the ground even. I'm going to have to go do a little bit more disking in here. Well, here we are with plot number 2. This is right at the bottom of the hill right here. This again was a clover plot for the last 3 or 4 years now. I planted this clover plot the same year I planted the other one. You can see very few weeds came back to life in here. Kind of a long, narrow plot. It goes down here a little bit towards the swamp, where it's probably its most sunlight spot right up here. So this will probably be the area that the brassicas grow the best. A few grasses in here, so it should work up about like the other one did, maybe a little better. And then I got this little strip right here that I'll go up and down a few times too. It's getting harder and harder to plant this little section because of these buckthorn. But yeah, let's rip her up. All right, as you can tell, this plot worked up quite a bit better, probably just because there's less live roots in the ground. And these are sprayed the same day. It's just the other plot had so many more weeds that came back. I don't think I'm gonna get a chance to plant these tonight. I only got about an hour left of light, maybe an hour and a half, but I still got, I'd have to seed and cultipack. What I could do is I can maybe come back and seed these two in case we do get some good rain tonight, and then end up cultipacking tomorrow, because I want to definitely cultipack, because tonight is the only chance of rain the next week. So if I just throw these seeds right on top, they're not going to really germinate with a ½ inch or less of rain. By running the cultipacker through here, I'd have to drag that out. I don't have time to get that out tonight and get that all the way out here. But by cultipacking, or even just dragging with the drag, it's going to help work those seeds in. And when the sun's beating down on the soil here, you know, those seeds will be in the soil, and there already is some moisture in here. So maybe not quite enough moisture to germinate. The other field's a little wetter. The one I just did before this, that ground has plenty of moisture to germinate the seed right now. But just by getting the seed into the soil should help the germination instead of just leaving right on top. So, all right, at the third spot now, same thing. Another like 40 by 20 yard kill plot. Some of this ground, like over here and over there by that tree in the tree tube, basically wherever there's more green weeds, that's where I've had a food plot like the last 2 or 3 years now. This was a trail at one time, and I kind of just widened it and kind of kept this little spot open and started planting stuff here. And then this year I expanded it, and basically wherever you see all these big stumps, this will be the first year I planted anything here. And I sprayed this plot off too the same days I sprayed off the other 2 plots. But you can see all these big stumps. I probably won't even disc here. I'm just gonna break something. If I do go over this, I'll go over it really slow, just to kind of fluff up the ground a little bit. I'll probably end up ripping up this side with the ATV tires, but that side will all work up a little bit, and maybe even rip up some of those stumps. Those are pretty rotted over there now too. This right here is actually, there was a huge brush pile here from all this brush, and it actually burnt a hole into the ground a little bit. This peat ground caught on fire kind of a little bit, and I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stick a big tarp in there, a big rubber tarp, maybe even dig it out a little bit and just have a nice water hole right in the center of this plot. So I'm not gonna drive over that, obviously, but yeah, that tree tipped over, so that kind of fell into that side of the plot, so it kind of shrunk that side a little bit. But again, just a tiny little spot. I don't even really hunt this. I don't even have a stand on this plot here, but just kind of a staging plot, and then the 1 acre food plot is right out there. And pretty much all these 3 little plots are all staging plots to bigger destination food plots. The first one was a staging plot to like our core 2 acre area, and then the second plot was a staging area to like another ½ acre field, and then there's an acre field right out there too on this staging area. So minimal bedding in here. Once in a while does will bed in here. Everything beds that way. Well, where the existing plot was, it worked extremely well. This stuff is just like black powder, just black peat. You can see why the ground caught on fire. This is just straight peat. There ain't no clay or sand in this ground at all. If you actually jump, you can actually shake the ground a little bit here. And again, there's pretty good moisture in here. That once I see these brassicas and get them covered up, they should germinate. So yeah, this side didn't work that good. I went super slow, like slower than walking speed. I'll just have to rip that up with the tires a little bit more. But yeah, here we go. Got it all mixed up. You can see all the blue and the yellow and the green. That's the wintergreens. All the red seed is the honey hole, and all those bigger brown ones, that's all the tillage radish. That little bit of seed right there should plant these 3 plots. And in total, I'm probably planting maybe probably a third of an acre, all three of them combined. All right, so I just got all three plots seeded, and as you can tell, you know, decent amount of seed left. So these brassica plots, that's super important not to overseed, otherwise you might as well not even plant, because when you really put it down thick, they only get it shin high, they turn yellow, and the deer don't even eat on them. So when I'm looking around in here, this is what I'm seeing for seeds. We got a honey hole seed there. We got wintergreen seed there. Another wintergreen seed, another wintergreen seed, honey hole seed. I mean, I'm sure I'm missing a few here and there that I can't see in here, but all I know is I've overseeded my fair share of brassicas in the past. Like my first couple years of planting brassica, pretty much every plot I planted was too thick. I'm sure even some of the areas tonight I planted will be too thick, but the main thing is getting the majority of the plot, you know, at the right population so these plants can really thrive and get really big and leafy. Otherwise, they just get stunted and, you know, turn yellow and don't get that big. So, yeah. Tomorrow I'll be cultipacking. I probably won't get any footage of that. Just get it done. And you'll see these plots probably in a couple weeks. So, see you then. Well, here we are. It's been a little bit since I last updated you. You can see I got this water hole dug in probably like 2 weeks ago. I think I did that. And surprisingly, there's like little to no weeds at all whatsoever in this plot. I can't believe how good this looks compared to the other plot that's just that way. Maybe 200 yards, they'll take you there next. That's like almost a failure. But like no weeds hardly at all. The brassica spacing is perfect, not too thick, not too thin. Got a lot of tillage radish in here, which is good. That's what I wanted, because you know, we don't need the turnips and the kale and the rape for late season, because I got so much corn and beans here. I wanted a high percentage of these these tillage radish in here for like September, October. And got the water hole in. That was a big brush pile here. I cleaned up this whole side of the plot. You can see all these sticks over here. This was all buckthorn last year, but this side over here was existing food plot. You can see all the stumps right here. Brassicas didn't quite come in as good right here, but anyways, this was a big pile here that burnt a hole in the ground. This is pretty much like black peat ground. Lucky it didn't really spread many more than what it did, but it created a perfect water hole. This is like 200 gallons. That's like almost as high as my boots in the center right there. So like 1.5 feet deep, but just absolutely no weeds coming in. Looking great. I might have one more update in this video, but I'm not sure. I'll take you over to that plot next. I got 2 more plots to show you. You know, I had 3 plots in this video, so I don't want to make this a half-hour video. So I'll be over to the next plot, which is probably the worst of the 3. Okay, so here we are, plot number 2. This is the first of 2 existing clover plots that I sprayed down and ripped up with the disc and put in Nebraska this year. You can see a lot more weeds in here. This plot I plan on seeding winter rye into this plot, and the next one I'll take you to. And when the winter rye is like chest high in here next spring, I'll seed my clover in super thick, crush all the rye down. I'm sure there'll be some of this water hemp that comes back, but that rye will just help kind of hold back some of the weeds. But there's gonna be a lot of weed seed in here. This is all a lot of water hemp. But with it being, you know, this is just the first year to take it out of clover, and I'm gonna put clover in here next year, and you know, continuing to mow it for like a year or 2, it should take out most of the weeds. And I should have a nice, beautiful clover plot a year or 2 from now in here, and that'll be good for at least another 4 to 5 years. I had clover in here for probably 4 to 5 years, and it started getting kind of patchy with the grasses coming in. Right now, there's no grasses in here. It was all like perennial swamp grass and canary grass that was starting to take over. Now it's just all annual water hemp and brassica. Brassica is definitely a little thinner than it should be, but like I said, we got a whole nother month of growth. Once we get a frost, it'll kill off all these weeds. Only thing in here will be the green brassica and all the rye that I plan on seeding in here in the next couple weeks here. There's a ton of deer tracks in here. The ground is just tore up. The deer will just till in the rye that I spread in here because there's so loose ground and a lot of traffic. Look at all the deer, all this dirt right here on this brassica just for them walking through here. But yeah, there'll be some food here. A lot of dirt right here too. Some food in here for the deer, but this really ain't going to be a track that's going to hold them here all winter. Those corn and bean plots right out there is what's going to do it. Yeah, I'll take you down to the third spot next. That one's down there closer to the hill. You can see the pine trees up there. That direction, another couple 100 yards. All right, so here we are at the third plot now. This plot again is looking pretty good. Not too many weeds, unlike the second plot. Believe it or not, this was all clover here going all the way back into there. But this strip on this side, I've planted brassica here. The first year I planted it, I had a sorghum wall here, and then it's been brassica for like 3 years in a row. I think last year it was tilled brassica. The year before that it might have been no-till. I'm surprised though, the weeds haven't really come in here that bad. A little bit of weed pressure right here, but pretty weed free considering this has been tilled for at least 2, maybe even 3 years in a row now. Brassicas are pretty well spaced out in here. And then this side, this right here has always been nice grass. I don't want to get rid of this because it's going to be hard to get this to come back if I want it grass again. But this was all clover over here for the last 4 or 5 years. This clover plot wasn't quite as bad with the grasses, but I figured if I was doing the other one, I might as well do this one and you know, replant it next year. The brassicas aren't going to do much here next to this big woods. You know, it's so shady on this side. The clover always looked pretty good right in here, but then over here is where the clover was getting kind of weedy. This was pretty grassy. It's getting closer to the swamp, but this was pretty much almost solid clover when I sprayed it off. I could have probably left it, but if I'm replanting this side, I'll just replant that side too. These brassicas over here look a little better. Not too many weeds coming in. A little bit here and there. The brassicas are actually the biggest down here. This is where it was like almost solid canary grass. I can't believe I actually got a pretty good kill on this canary grass. There's some of it coming in right here again, but there was like almost no clover down in here at all. So yeah, looking pretty good. I'm still gonna, you know, see this whole plot. I might even do that side too, the side that I didn't have clover into. I'll probably seed everything in here with rye in the next 2 weeks or so. Maybe I'll do that. And this is all going to be planted into clover, just like the second plot. But with a whole nother month to grow, they should fill in pretty nicely. And then I'll have all the green rye in here too. So this will be a nice little green plot, you know, right, you know, next to the swamp. There'll be some daylight activity in here as they get out closer to the bigger fields. I got one of my stands right here. Well, here we are, final update of the video. It's been quite a couple more weeks since I did the last update. This is the third spot in the video. It's definitely grown since I've been last out here. I just want to make this a nice, short, quick update of all 3 plots. This plot is one of the plots I'll be seeding in rye at, like in the next week here, sometime soon here. Something's eating on these leaves a little bit. Might be insects, but yeah, looking pretty good. Not a ton of weeds coming in, but the rye should fill in all the gaps, and there'll be a nice green plot down in here. Here's the side over here. So yeah, I'm gonna take you over to the next plot, that weedier one next, and then we'll do the one with the Waterhole last. Well, here we are. Here's the weedy plot. You can see these weeds haven't really grown much since I was out here. Like I said, it's all going out to seed, all this water hemp. Brassicas have grown a little bit, but you can see they're pretty stressed because just like the last plot I was at, see how the leaves are kind of like limp and they're like wilting down. We haven't had rain for probably a week, maybe close to a week and a half. There's a lot of brassicas that are like tore up in here. There's deer tracks everywhere in here. I mean, you could tell there's a lot of traffic in here. Look at how the dirt is just churned up. They're actually already munching on these. This is like the earliest I've ever seen my brassicas get munched on. Look at this. There's got to be some does and fawns living close by. You'll see in the next plot, that's really munched on too. But you can see these brassicas are definitely looking for moisture. Starting to wilt, but we got, you know, they're calling for 1 to 3 inches of rain tonight into all day tomorrow, so they should be doing fine after that, and then, you know, have at least a whole nother half a month of growth, possibly close to a month. I mean, look at this. There's like leaves missing. This is more browse than I've ever seen on my brassicas this early. And this is the second plot that'll be getting all rye, and this one, the last one, will be both going into clover next spring. No tilled right into the standing rye. Hopefully that will suppress some of these weeds a little bit. So I'll take you over to the next one. This one again is pretty thin on the brassica, but that's all right. Look at this turnip right here. Well, here we are back at the Waterhole plot. Again, the weeds have been really good and not really coming in that bad at all. It's amazing. I can't believe the weeds are this, you know, weed free in here. You can see these brassicas, this is probably the best plot out of the 3 this year, out of these 3 little ones that I did in this video. These brassicas are pretty well spaced out, huge plants. Last week when I was in here, I saw quite a bit of browse on some of these tillage radish. You can see this one's been browsed down. This is all like new regrowth. Some of this right here has been nipped off already. The Waterhole's been going, has, you know, evaporated a little bit being in the sun like this, but there's still plenty in there for the year. Might have to refill that next year if it does start to evaporate more. You can see all these are all missing on these tillage radish leaves. It's been pretty well nipped off already, some of these plants. This one too. A lot of these ends. Even some of these turnip ends, usually you don't see the deer hitting on these that much. At least I don't. Maybe in a northern woods setting, you know, they'll eat anything because they don't have as much food, but this is an ag area. And I usually don't see this type of browse on the brassicas this early in the season. And I think I might have put fertilizer on this plot last year. I don't even remember, but I didn't put any fertilizer on any 3 of these plots. And these brassicas look plenty healthy. That's why I've kind of figured out planting corn, soybeans, and brassicas that if you need to fertilize, you fertilize one year and you should be able to get away with not having to fertilize the next year after. You shouldn't have to fertilize every year. And I usually end up with pretty good results. Like this next year, I probably won't fertilize this either. Maybe the year after that I will, because I know this ground needs a little bit of potassium and phosphorus, but some of my corn that I didn't even fertilize this year looks just as good as corn that I have fertilized this year. And it's just boggles my mind that there's really no reason to fertilize every year. Anyways, yeah, here we go. Look at that one, completely down to nothing. So pretty neat little spot right in here. So yeah, thanks for watching this little 3 plot video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you maybe learned something. Next year, those 2 other plots, like I said, I'll be putting those into clover. So this is the only year that I'll be doing all 3 of these little clover, all 3 of these little kill plots into brassica. Because you can see I just left that one plot. Right out here is our bigger 1 acre field. I got brassicas out here and lots of soybeans out here too. This plot doesn't have nearly as much browse on these brassica. This is all no-till buckwheat brassica right here. This is the better of the 2 no-till buckwheat plots I have this year. These brassicas are huge out here. So yeah, thanks for watching. There'll still be maybe 2 brassica videos coming out. And I gotta get my corn and soybean update video that I took a lot of footage of last weekend. I gotta get that out soon too. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.